Nate inclined his glass and declared, "In truth, brother, your spouse was my birthday gift." He cast a knowing glance at her. The crowd chuckled. I didn't join in. Instead, I pushed my phone towards him, displaying a single image on the screen, causing his complexion to pale. Interestingly, he had extended the invitation for me to prepare that meal. He personally handed me the house keys. It seems 90% of you are watching without subscribing, and this narrative is blazing hot. Let's rectify that. Allow me to rewind 6 days. On Tuesday, I operate a modest catering business from a commercial kitchen in Northeast Charlotte. Not an empire, but corporate lunches, private dinners, the occasional wedding. My wife, Lauren, manages the finances. She's a CPA. When we tied the knot 8 years ago, she offered to handle the accounting for free. I agreed because I trusted her implicitly. Nate and I share a bond that dates back to college. UNC Charlotte, freshman dorms, 19 years of camaraderie. He ventured into commercial real estate. Last year, when our previous kitchen lease ended, Nate promised he'd found us a superior location. Enlarged, refurbished loading dock. Lauren managed the necessary paperwork. I signed as instructed. The fresh rent was $4,200 monthly. Nate deemed it a good deal for the space. I trusted his judgment. So when Nate contacted me on that Tuesday, suggesting a homemade birthday dinner instead of dining out, inviting 12 guests at his place Saturday evening, I agreed readily. He promised to leave the key under the mat for my early entry to prepare. I informed him I'd arrive by 3. That was our last ordinary discussion. On Thursday afternoon, I journeyed to Nate's house to examine his kitchen for menu planning purposes. He was at work, key under the mat as promised. Upon entering, I inspected the stove, oven, and counter space. I jotted down notes on my phone. As I exited, I passed by the bathroom off the hallway. It was there that I noticed it. On the edge of the sink, alongside Nate's razor and toothpaste tube, a small earring. A small gold earring adorned by a minute emerald. I picked it up and examined it in my hands, recognizing its familiarity. Purchased for Lauren on our 5th anniversary at an East Boulevard jeweler, this piece had cost me $600 and was part of an exclusive pair. With Lauren's strict rule of never removing her jewelry away from home, I knew the earring hadn't been where I found it. For about 10 seconds, I held it before replacing it, took a picture, and left. The door was locked, the key returned to its usual spot under the mat. I spent 2 minutes in my truck before heading to the kitchen to plan the menu for Saturday as if nothing had transpired. Unsettled, I knew I wouldn't feel right until I uncovered some answers. That night, after ensuring Lauren was asleep, I ventured downstairs to her office where she kept the records from my company. Until then, I had never delved into those files. They were hers alone. I uncapped my laptop and retrieved the rental agreement for our newly acquired kitchen space. The contract was with a firm titled Ridgeline Property Holdings. Nate's name was absent, but an unknown bank account was specified in the payment guidelines. A search of the company yielded a state registration. Established 7 months prior, Ridgeline had Nathan Hollies as its registered agent. Nate, my friend. I perused comparable rents for similar spaces within the same vicinity. The average rate was $3,000 monthly. Ours, however, was $4,200, amounting to an additional $14,400 yearly. These funds seemed to bypass our finances and move through invoices prepared by Lauren. I retreated into my chair, pondering the revelation. My spouse managed the money, my best friend headed the shell company, and a pair of earrings sat on his bathroom sink. The laptop was closed, feet taking me upstairs, where I lay beside Lauren. Her breathing was gentle, one hand concealed beneath the pillow. I gazed at the ceiling and made a decision before her next inhalation. On Friday morning, I acted swiftly. The first call was to Dale Owens, a CPA from a restaurant owners group, who agreed to prepare a preliminary audit report on my company's books, focusing on the lease issue, by Monday. Next, I contacted Frank Morty, the building owner whose name appeared in county property records. He confirmed that I was the tenant in Unit C and revealed that the actual lease rate was $2,100 per month. Shocked to find out that Nate had been overcharging me, I discovered they'd pocketed approximately $25,000 over 11 months by charging double the rent through Ridgeline. Lastly, I contacted a divorce attorney named Whitfield. I informed his assistant that it was urgent, and he returned my call within an hour. I drove to his office, signed a retainer before lunch on the same day. On Friday afternoon, I phoned Nate's girlfriend, Jess, who worked at an animal clinic across town. She was punctual, methodical, someone who arrived early and stayed late. We usually got along well. I requested a meeting for coffee, to which she agreed as she had a break at 4 o'clock. I showed her a picture of the earring found in Nate's sink. After a prolonged inspection, she expressed it wasn't hers. I clarified it belonged to Lauren. Jess set down the phone. She didn't cry. Instead, her jaw stiffened and she nodded slowly, as if verifying something she had been contemplating for weeks. She replied, "Thursdays." I questioned. "What?" she stated. "Every Thursday he claims to be viewing properties late, and every Thursday she claims to be meeting a college friend for dinner." Around a month ago, I thought I was hallucinating, but I dismissed it. A moment of silence passed before she asked about my plans. I told her, Saturday evening, his dinner. I intended to present him with the photo and share the details I'd gathered about Ridgeline. She replied, "I'll be seated there too." "On Saturday," was my response. At 3 on Saturday, I brought 2 boxes of ingredients and my knife rolled to Nate's house. He wasn't around. Instead, I found him hidden under the mat. For 3 hours, I prepared braised short ribs, roasted vegetables, and a chocolate torte for dessert. During the cooking process, I walked to the bathroom, only to find the earring missing. He had cleaned up, shrewd but not cunning enough. Lauren arrived at 5:30 to assist with setting the table. She complimented the delicious aroma and wore the remaining earring from the pair in her left ear. I nearly laughed. Guests started arriving between 6:30 and 7. 12 guests gathered around Nate's dining table, with Jess sitting quietly at one end and Lauren beside Nate. I dispensed wine and arranged the food. Everyone claimed the short ribs were the best they'd ever had. Here's the thing, Lauren wasn't aware. That morning, I discovered a copy of the Ridgeline lease on my kitchen desk, shifted from its original folder. She had seen it. She was privy to my search. And I knew she'd contacted Nate because when he arrived, he scrutinized me for an extra moment, probing, attempting to discern what I knew. He believed I'd merely found the funds. He didn't grasp about the earring. Following dessert, someone wrapped a glass and solicited a speech from Nate. He rose. He was proficient at this. The volume, the pace, the gaze, he expressed gratitude to everyone, gratitude to his office team, gratitude towards Jess for tolerating his schedule. Then he faced me and Lauren. He stated, "And I must express a special appreciation to my friend Caleb. This meal was extraordinary, brother. And to Lauren." He paused, raised his glass. "To be honest, your wife was my birthday gift this year." She expertly handled the situation, and he subtly acknowledged it with a knowing wink. Lauren smiled back while others applauded subtly. I remained quiet, pulling out my phone to show a picture Nate's unique earring sitting on his bathroom sink next to his razor. I placed the phone face up on the tablecloth and gently slid it towards him. For a moment, he seemed perplexed, then recognized the earring, followed by his bathroom sink. The room fell silent. I smirked, saying, "She managed quite a bit more than you might think." Nate scrutinized the photo, looking at me, trying to gauge how much I knew and could prove, whether this was about the earring or other matters as well. He attempted a casual response first. "Dude, that could be anyone's earring. You're jumping to conclusions." I replied, "Custom-made, one-of-a-kind from East Boulevard Jewelers. You didn't think she would miss something like that." Here's the receipt, and it seems Lauren is currently wearing the other one. This statement caused everyone at the table to look at Lauren. Frozen, with her hand halfway to her ear, she was adorned with an emerald drop that reflected light. Nate's face tightened, and he leaned back in his chair before falling silent for a moment. He then spoke up, addressing the issue with the lease. "Let me clarify about the lease situation," he said. Lauren had requested me to do so. I raised my hand, pointing out Ridgeline Property Holdings, a company registered 7 months ago. Her name appeared on the filing. The actual rent is $2,001 per month, but she charges you $4,200. In just 11 months, she's taken $25,000 from you. I've already spoken to Frank Morty about this matter. Nate had no response to that revelation. He simply remained seated. Rising from the table's end, he stated, "I see. You'll gather your belongings on Monday and leave the key under the mat." She left the room. Lauren also got up from the table and headed to the kitchen. The guests were already collecting their coats. "2. The receipt I have is yours, and right now, it appears that Lauren is wearing the other one." This statement caused everyone at the table to turn to Lauren. She was frozen with her hand halfway to her ear, wearing an emerald drop that caught the light. Nate's face tensed up. He leaned back in his chair before falling silent for a moment. He then spoke out about the lease issue. "Let me clarify regarding the lease situation," he said. Lauren had requested me to speak on this matter. I raised my hand, pointing out Ridgeline Property Holdings, a company that was registered 7 months ago. Her name appeared on the filing. The actual rent is $2,001 per month, but she charges you $4,200. In just 11 months, she's taken $25,000 from you. I have already discussed this matter with Frank Morty. Nate had no answer to that information. He simply remained seated. Standing up from the table's end, he declared, I understand. You will collect your belongings on Monday and leave the key under the mat. She left the room. Lauren also stood up and went to the kitchen. The guests were already preparing to leave. 3. This receipt belongs to you, and it seems like Lauren is currently wearing the other one. When this was said, everyone at the table looked towards Lauren. Her hand was halfway to her ear, and she was adorned with an emerald drop that shone in the light. Nate's face tightened, and he remained quiet for a while before responding about the lease issue. Let me explain about the lease situation, he said. Lauren had asked me to discuss this matter. I raised my hand, pointing out Ridgeline Property Holdings, a company that was registered 7 months ago. Her name appeared on the filing. The actual rent is $2,001 per month, but she charges you $4,200. In just 11 months, she's taken $25,000 from you. I have already talked to Frank Morty about this matter. Nate had no response to that statement. He simply remained seated. Getting up from the table's end, he announced, I see. You will retrieve your possessions on Monday and leave the key under the mat. She left the room. Lauren also followed me to the kitchen. The guests were already reaching for their coats. 4. With this receipt in hand, it appears that the other one is on Lauren now. This comment caused everyone at the table to focus on Lauren. Her hand was halfway to her ear, and she wore an emerald drop that caught the light. Nate's face contorted, and he fell silent for a moment before addressing the lease issue. Let me clarify about the lease situation, he said. Lauren had asked me to address this matter. I raised my hand, pointing out Ridgeline Property Holdings, a company that was established 7 months ago. Her name appeared on the filing. The actual rent is $2,001 per month, but she charges you $4,200. In just 11 months, she's taken $25,000 from you. I have already discussed this matter with Frank Morty. Nate had no counterargument for that fact. He simply remained seated. Rising from the table's end, he said, I understand. You will gather your belongings on Monday and leave the key under the mat. She left the room. Lauren also stood up and joined me in the kitchen. The guests were already preparing to depart. 5. This receipt is yours. It seems that she's wearing the other one right now, Lauren. Everyone at the table turned to look at her. Her hand was halfway to her ear, and she wore an emerald drop that shone in the light. Nate's face tightened, and he hesitated before addressing the lease issue. Let me explain about the lease situation, he said. Lauren had requested my assistance with this matter. I raised my hand, pointing out Ridgeline Property Holdings, a company that was registered 7 months ago. Her name appeared on the filing. The actual rent is $2,001 per month, but she charges you $4,200. In just 11 months, she's taken $25,000 from you. I have already spoken to Frank Morty about this situation. Nate had no rebuttal for that revelation. He simply stayed seated. Standing up from the table's end, he declared, I see. You will pick up your things on Monday and leave the key under the mat. She left the room. Lauren also followed me to the kitchen. The guests were already collecting their coats. In the dining room, someone announced, we should leave. Chairs dragged across the hardwood floor, and Lauren's voice was soft yet hurried. You're mistaken. The rental agreement, that was Nate's arrangement. He told me it was a regular broker fee. All commercial leases have one. I had organized the bills according to his specifications. I turned toward her. You're an accountant. This is your profession. The markup doubled the actual rent, funneling into a company registered by your boyfriend 7 months prior. You were well aware of what those figures represented. She paused. The word boyfriend hit harder than any other statement that night. Trying again, she said, the earring. I went to his place to finalize the paperwork. I probably took it off while washing my hands. I stated, that was on a Thursday, when you told me you were dining with Kate. Her mouth gaped open, but no words emerged. I informed her that our home locks would be changed by morning, and her belongings would reside in the garage by Sunday at noon. Between noon and 4, she could retrieve them. Dale Owens was reviewing the financial records. Whitfield had the legal documentation for separation. He had already filed a grievance about Ridgeline with the North Carolina Real Estate Commission. She exclaimed, you're ruining everything. I replied, I just prepared dinner. You two started the fire. Nate contacted me on Sunday morning. I chose to let it go to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail. For the 3rd time, he left a message. His tone was altered. No warmth or loudness, only monotone and swift. He suggested we discuss matters before I made any hasty decisions concerning the commission. He claimed the Ridgeline issue was a misinterpretation and he could clarify the figures. He asserted that Lauren had no involvement in it. I saved the message and sent it to Whitfield. That afternoon, Lauren's sister arrived with a rented pickup truck. Lauren sat in the passenger seat. I remained indoors while they loaded the boxes. When they were done, Lauren approached the front door. One, she seemed exhausted, indicating lack of sleep. She mentioned Nate was anxious, claiming you were attempting to revoke his license. I responded, stating I wasn't trying. The commission examines every complaint. He can clarify the shell company with them. After a moment's pause, she admitted, Caleb, I made a grave error. I countered, you embezzled from my business. Nate did too. That's not an oversight. It was premeditated. She departed. I shut the door and contacted Frank Morty, discussing direct lease renegotiation without intermediaries. He agreed to draft a new contract at $2,100 per month. We sealed the deal over the phone on Monday morning. In Whitfield's office, I signed the termination papers, straightforward and clean, one signature per page. He informed me the process would take roughly a year, but the financial evidence would ensure the separation was uncomplicated. Dale Owen's initial report verified the overpayments. 2, she had an exhausted appearance, suggesting lack of sleep. She conveyed that Nate was panicking, alleging you were trying to seize his license. I explained, I'm not making any moves. The commission looks into every complaint. He can clarify the shell company with them, I added. After a brief pause, she confessed, Caleb, I made a big blunder. I responded, you swindled my business and Nate did too. That's not an oversight. It was intentional. She departed. I locked the door and connected with Frank Morty, discussing direct lease renegotiation without any agents or intermediaries. He concurred to draft a fresh contract at $2,100 per month. We sealed the arrangement over the phone on Monday morning. In Whitfield's office, I signed the termination papers, simple and tidy, one signature for each page. He disclosed that the process would take approximately a year, but the financial evidence would simplify the division. Dale Owen's preliminary report verified the overpayments. 3, she wore a haggard expression, suggesting she hadn't slept well. She conveyed Nate was in distress, stating you were trying to revoke his license. I clarified that I wasn't attempting such action. The commission considers each complaint. He can clarify the shell company with them. After a brief pause, she admitted, Caleb, I goofed up. I countered, you swindled my business and Nate did too. That's not an oversight. It was planned. She left. I closed the door and contacted Frank Morty, discussing direct lease renegotiation without any third-party involvement. He consented to create a new contract at $2,100 per month. We finalized the agreement over the phone on Monday morning. In Whitfield's office, I signed the separation papers, efficient and streamlined, one signature for every page. He revealed that the process would require around a year, but the financial data would ensure the split was straightforward. Dale Owen's initial report confirmed the overpayments. The origin of every dollar is Ridgeline. Subsequently, I ventured to the kitchen. My very own kitchen, the one Nate discovered for us. The one Lauren calculated the costs for. The one they'd both been misappropriating funds from for a span of 11 months. Upon arrival, I parked, opened the back door, and stepped in. Stainless steel counters identical to before, a walk-in cooler humming softly in the corner, the dry erase board with orders for the upcoming week still present. I donned my apron, washed my hands, and began preparing for a corporate lunch on Tuesday, serving 40 guests chicken thighs, herb butter, roasted potatoes on the menu, a complete menu, food that was trustworthy since I had constructed it myself. My phone vibrated around the 10th hour, a message from Jess. She had submitted a complaint about Nate to his workplace brokerage. She mentioned a supervisor was scrutinizing his client files now. He's finished, she wrote. I placed my phone on the counter and resumed my work, the only noise being the sound of the knife against the chopping board. Outside, the morning traffic droned on down the freeway. I faced filling 40 plates before noon, alongside a fresh lease waiting in my inbox. That much was enough to begin with.